Good morning, everybody. I hope all of you have joined for today's class, and we shall talk about future energy demand, how the demand is projected, and how it is estimated in order to make the availability of power more and more reliable in coming days. So the first thing is going to be how I intend to present the entire thing about future energy demand. First, we will have a brief overview of power sector in India. The second is going to be the long and medium term demand projections. Then we have a brief outline of what are the initiatives the important stakeholders in the power industry are going to take important steps in order to realize the right kind of demand estimation and projection, and what impact of these policies in what have been doing in past and in present also. So as you very well understand that power sector is a key infrastructure facilitating the overall economic progress of the country. With all-round development, the all India demand for electricity is also increasing continuously. And it is a very natural process across all segments such as agriculture, industrial, commercial, and domestic components. I told you in the first introductory part of the session when we started that the Indian population has been historically more dependent on agriculture, but the share of agriculture sector is slowly coming down. And the services sector and industrial sectors, they are taking over. But how come the demand side on agricultural sector happens to increase? So because of obvious reasons, now more and more people who are engaged in agriculture, and if we talk about the big farmers, they are relying on farm power equipments, means all the equipments which are connected for the harvesting, for all kinds of agricultural tools, and these are going to be power tools. So for irrigation, for all other allied activities, farmers, especially the big farmers, they are utilizing the electricity or electric power more as compared to the previous years. So naturally, the agriculture load is also increasing. And moreover, since we are concentrating on the rural electrification program, these are going to be more demand in the coming days for agriculture sector also. So in short, in every segment, the demand of electricity is increasing day by day, year by year, decade by decade. It will keep on increasing. Now, the analysis of demand pattern and future projection of demand, this exercise has to be carried out. How do we analyze what is going to be the pattern, visible pattern in the demand in different components of the economy, as we discussed in the last slide, like agriculture, commercial, or industrial, or domestic household pattern. So we shall have a brief study about how these demand patterns are changing or what is the likely pattern so that we can fruitfully project the power demand in coming days. So the basic process will be planning of power procurement, how we are going to procure the power. In India, the situation is somewhat a little complicated because power is generated in the central pool, state pool, and some states are sharing their power with neighboring states. So all these kinds of arrangement are made by Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, CERC, and we have got state commissions also. So all these bodies, they have their say in planning of power procurement, how a particular state is going to get the power. The next thing, setting up new generation or installation of new generating capacities in central sector as well as in state sectors. Third is building transmission and distribution systems. Obviously, when we are going to have good amount of power, how we wish or how we plan to transmit it and distribute it accordingly. I think in next semester you are going to have a course on EHV, HVDC transmission and extra high voltage transmission, in which you will have some exposure how the transmission lines are designed when we increase the system voltage. The bulk transmission voltage in India is 400 kV, but that is not sufficient when we want to increase the transmission of power at a larger value. When the total power exists in say 5,000, 2,000 or 10,000 megawatt, the power carrying capability can be increased by increasing the voltage, and that has got technical as well as economic advantages. So you will know the many things about extra high voltage transmissions in the next semester. But this is very clear that once we increase our power generating capacity, we need to build transmission and distribution systems so that we meet the consumer demand that is to happen in future. Now, growth in the installed capacity of generation. The utility sector in India has an installed capacity of 307 gigawatt as on 31st October 2016. Yesterday I told you that till 31st July 20, the total installed capacity is almost 372 gigawatt. So we can say that till today we have got almost 372. So we have almost added up 65 gigawatt of installed capacity since 31st October till date. You can get these data at the website of Ministry of Power. In 2013, it was the world's third largest producer of electricity with a global share of 4.8%, surpassing even Japan and Russia. So people who are not in the know of the things, they might imagine that India lags behind many industrialized nations in generation and utilization of power. So this is simply a half truth. In 2013, we held the third position in the generation of electric power. So the population wise, we are not able to meet or we are not able to reduce the supply and demand side of power, but definitely we are on the right track. We have been generating the electric power in the increasing mode. If fuel-wise generation capacity is considered, thermal power projects account for an almost 70% of the total installed capacity. And this thermal power generation is not only coal-fired, but fossil fuel-based generation that roughly accounts to 70% of the total installed capacity. It showed the highest annual growth rate of 11.66% in the year 13-14. Hydropower projects amount to almost 14% of the total installed capacity. So the rate of growth of thermal power plant is quite high as expected. Now the next thing is growth in per capita consumption. The previous slide was about the growth in the installed capacity or in the generation. And the second thing is growth in per capita consumption. And here India performs dismal. It has got a very dismal state as far as the growth in per capita consumption is concerned. And I suppose all of you understand what does it mean. It is a direct reminder that the consumption, per capita consumption of electric power is a direct indicator of economic growth. So if we would like to know how advanced any country is, we can predict by looking at the per capita consumption of electric power, and we shall be able to know that how the country is progressing or what is the state of its progress in terms of industry, in terms of socio-economic indicators, in all facets of national life. The per capita consumption can predict the overall well-being of a country. So the first thing is the electricity demand growth trend of the Indian subcontinent is quite impressive. This proportion is still well below India's near 18% current share of global population, a strong indicator of the potential for further growth. So as much as we share the global population, we are not simply sharing the per capita consumption of the global energy generation or global power generation. Expressed on a per capita basis, energy demand in India has grown by a more modest 46% since 2000. Now see, the growth of 46% since 2000 is still a very modest growth. It should have been almost doubled since 2000 and remains only around 1/3 of the world average, the global average. So we have grown at almost 50%, but we are still very low on the global data. Across India too, there is a widespread disparity in the per capita electricity consumption among the regions, which can be seen in the next slide. What does this mean? That in our country also, we have got a widespread disparity, state-wise, region-wise. And that is obvious also because some states are industrially advanced, like Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, in comparison to the north states like UP, Bihar, or what we call the Bimaru states. So the growth of per capita consumption in these states are obviously on a higher side. The per capita electricity consumption of different regions, and the data has been compiled for 2014-15. Now you can pay your attention here. we have got all the regions. In the western, the per capita consumption is highest. Then comes southern, 1271 kilowatt hours. The all India figure is 1010. Northern is on the third position, 927 units. Eastern 618 and northeastern 338. And this data does not confirm or does not imply that the availability of power is low, because you can say that in northeastern states the availability of power is not low, but the per capita consumption seems to be the lowest. So there is no direct link, because in northeastern states load is almost very low in comparison to their commercial. The commercial activities are also not on higher side. Their domestic and agriculture loads or household activities are more prominent. So this does not exactly figure out that the states which are on the lowest side, like northeast states, they have got a very low side on power consumption. In western states, the industries are continuously carrying out their operation. There is general shift, night shift, morning, evening shift, running on 24-hour basis. So definitely the per capita consumption will also be on a higher side. So this was a brief indication of how the per capita consumption is varying in our country. Now, what are the important factors that can be held responsible for the overall demand? How do we find it out? And what are the important parameters, indicators on which basis we can calculate this kind of projection? So the engineering fraternity have designed some different type of factors, and this all you should know are based on the load curve pattern. How the load or the chronological load curve is the total utilization of electric power with respect to the chronology of time. In 24-hour, the daily load curve corresponds to 24-hour load pattern. Similarly, weekly, monthly, yearly load curves can be designed. The time factor, obviously, the time is going to play a crucial role in the consumption of electric power. Time is the most important factor in determining the consumer behavior. On analyzing the load profiles, it is found that the load curve has time of the day property. Also, it has day of week, week of month, and month of the season property also. This means that the load curve is periodic in nature. So try to digest these things. As we all know that if we draw a characteristic or typical load curve of our area or any area whatsoever, we are going to observe certain kind of pattern, that load is minimum, say from 2 a.m. in the night to 4 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. in the morning. The chronological load curve will be at its trough, minimum point. From 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning, the load curve will start rising. It will keep on rising. it may reach to a level of morning crest when offices are open, the general shift is increasing its load. All commercial activities in the market and commercial establishments are starting, say, around 11 a.m., just before noon. So at that time, it will be a morning peak. And thereafter, the same kind of situation can be observed, say at 12:30 or 1 p.m. It may become maximum, the day peak. Thereafter, it will go down slowly and slowly and steadily, but not very sharply. It may remain constant from say 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The variation may be very low. And again comes the evening peak, say around 6:30 or 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. when all the people in metros, in big cities, they reach their homes and switch on their ACs, other household appliances. So on account of this and the markets and all, they all get lighted up. The commercial activity in the market starts at a higher note from 7:30 onward. People reach to market for their activities, daily purchasing things. Now on this time, we get the kind of evening peak, and thereafter the load will remain constant for 1-2 hours. It may go down, it may slightly increase, and thereafter from say 9:30 to 10, it may reach at a steady value and finally it will go down. I will take a little moment because the battery of the system is low. Meanwhile, you can post your responses in the chat box that you fully understand about the chronological load curve. If any of you is not, or few of you are not quite familiar with the load curve and its implication in the distribution of electric power, you should clearly indicate in the chat box so that we can have some discussion on load curve also. So this slide, I think all of you now understand that the time factor plays a very important role as far as demand side is concerned. And on the basis of daily load curve, we are going to estimate what is the demand, and pertaining to that demand is going to our response for the generation or supply side. Now, daily periodicity, again, the same kind of thing that we just discussed. A daily load curve reflects the diurnal nature of human activity. I mean, what we are doing on our day-to-day basis is going to give us an idea in terms of the electricity consumption pattern. Its shapes, width, magnitude may vary from state to state and depends upon the customer types. For example, domestic, agriculture, commercial and industrial customers, they are going to behave in different patterns, in different manners. The domestic load pattern will never match the industrial load pattern. All of you should understand it. Because if it's a process industry, it is going to work for 24 hours, 24/7, and the consumption pattern will almost not vary much. Very slight variations are possible. because the machines and the plant is running continuously. The things may go down, the consumption may go down because the lighting load and other kind of things are not required. So, so it is totally different from the domestic or agricultural load pattern, where the night activity is at lowest ebb in domestic and agricultural and in commercial activities also. Then atmospheric factors are going to affect the daily periodicity at a very high level. How it happens, we will see in the next slides. With the sunrise, domestic load gradually starts picking up with the switching in of electrical appliances. Very simple. Thereafter, commercial office load also picks up gradually and domestic load goes down. So commercial activity and other office activity are increasing from say 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. till noon or afternoon, and the domestic activity goes down because most of the people are in their school, children are in their schools, in their offices, in the industry, in other establishments, and very few people remain in the home. So naturally, the domestic load goes down. Now, weekly periodicity. Demand of a region is a reflection of the lifestyle of the population of that region. We can very well estimate that what is going to be the lifestyle of the people. The consumption of electric power is a good reflector of that also. During weekends, when most of the offices are closed, the demand is lower as compared to the working weekdays. In general, it has been found that maximum demand met occurs on Thursday or Friday, especially in big cities where 5-day week is observed. So on Fridays, they are going to have the maximum demand because there is a pressure from office, from services sectors, that such and such work has to be completed by this weekend. They have to present their weekly reports. They have to complete their task. In industries also, the weekly site targets are to be met. So all these things naturally put pressure on Thursday and Friday. And after Thursday, in the Western countries, they call it, thanks God, it's Friday, because next 2 days are going to be holidays and they can enjoy their weekends. Now, this kind of culture is also coming up in our country, especially in cities like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Chandigarh, where most of the multinationals, government offices are having their headquarters. The next is, it can be observed that less demand is met during the weekend, which increases substantially on Mondays, gradually acquiring a maximum in the midweek and again slopes down to the minimum during the weekends. So the same kind of pattern that we have been discussing. And this is a kind of periodic nature. Every week, one after another, the same kind of pattern can be observed throughout the month, throughout the year. There is not going to be any significant change. This is the meaning of weekly periodicity. On the same pattern, we have got monthly periodicity also. The daily load curve varies with changing months and seasons. Yeah, what is happening in the month of March, or what the chronological load curve we observe in the month of March, the same is not going to happen in the month of June or in the month of August, simply because the temperature and weather conditions are changing, very widely changing. So the daily load curve also behaves differently. The load curve of May, yeah, summer season is very different from that of December, winter season. The characteristic weather conditions of different months and demand response to it has resulted in unique daily load curve shapes throughout the year for each month, which is repeated every year. Now, what does it mean? It simply means that the monthly load curve of India, say in the monsoon season, is going to have a periodic kind of nature in the previous year, in this year, and in the coming year also. So if we can have a look on the last 5 years of monsoon season monthly periodicity of load curves, we will find a striking similarity. Things are not going to change. And if this curve is observed on the sector wise, I mean domestic load curve or the agricultural load curve or the industrial load curve, the periodicity or the same nature of the curve is very much strikingly visible. Weather conditions, what we discussed earlier also, the effect of weather is the most prominent for domestic, commercial, and agriculture consumers, not interestingly related to the industrial consumers or the industries. These are not going to be affected by the weather conditions, and for obvious reasons also, except that if we have got some very extreme weather conditions and something which is very abnormal, the industries are going to work as usual. They are not affected with weather conditions. So domestic, commercial, and agriculture consumers, they are going to have their consumption behavior very closely related to the weather conditions. Major weather related parameters driving the load curve are, as usual, very simple, temperature, and next is humidity. These two play very important role in domestic, especially in domestic consumption. Also, commercial and agriculture, as we will see, diversity in load, the various types of load shape of our demand curve. Yeah, not only the magnitude of demand, but also its seasonality, hourly variation, peak variation, and occurrence depend on the nature of major load of a region. You should focus on this last note, that the magnitude of demand varies with the season. I mean, what kind of season is going to happen? Say, if we talk about the areas which are near to sea, so whatever be the season, if it is cold or if it is summer or rainy season, the demand curve or the load curve is not going to change on the domestic front, because they are not going to have very sharp changes in temperature or in humidity conditions. Especially in northern India, when the monsoon sets in, say in the month of July onward till September, the humidity is on a rise. If in summer season the humidity is say 60% or 50% or below than that, the use of air conditioners are not frequently resorted to. Even the coolers can function very well. But in case of these monsoon seasons, people, they prefer to rely on air conditioners rather than desert coolers, simply because these cooling devices, they increase the humidity, coolers, the humidity is increased, and this does not provide us much comfort in rainy seasons. So we prefer the air conditioners. And now you know the use or the operation of air conditioner is power guzzler. If you have got a 2 kilowatt connection in your household, you are not allowed to use the air conditioner. So for the operation of a single air conditioner, at least you must have 4 kilowatt or 5 kilowatt demand connection from the power utility. So naturally, the demand is going to increase in household demand, especially is going to increase in rainy season. And you can say that when October or November sets in, this kind of household demand keeps on decreasing. It will remain on the lowest, say in the month of November, when no air conditioners are required. Even the fans are not preferred to be switched on, only the light loads, and the simple, some people even don't prefer to operate their refrigerators also in winters. So the household load is going to decline. We have to go through many different resources which are available on the ministry, which are available on the Central Electricity Authority, available on CERC, Electricity Regulatory Commission, and other sources which are available on net. If you can go through, then you will have different kind of reading materials available there. So especially in the first unit, which is the introductory part of our course, this will not be very much available in our textbooks. So that's why I am telling you that if you have any problem related to that, we can have few more discussions on these things. And mind you, I have seen many good questions coming in the question papers also related to this introduction part. And if you go through it, you can very well score in this. The daily variations, the load curve shape, peaks and leans are determined by the major type of load in that area. It simply means that what is going to be the load which is decided for a particular area. Say that we are living in some residential areas, there are no industry, there are no commercial establishment. So the peak and lean are going to be very well defined. But if, say, if we are in a city area where some big commercial activities are going on, then there may be some different type of peaks and leans may appear in our daily load curve, depending upon the seasonal variation, depending upon the commercial variation. For example, if I tell you that in weekends, Saturday and Sundays, or on holidays, there is a lot of rush mall area. And if we happen to be there in colony like Mahanagar and adjoining areas, we often suffer frequent load shedding because the power supply is provided through the substation near Mahanagar, and holiday or during the weekends, the power required by these malls and related adjoining areas and higher. So the domestic or residential consumers, they suffer unless they have got sufficient power to provide. So all these kind of things are too much. The electricity demand peaks more in the evening when residents switch on the lighting, cooling, and heating loads. Very simple, we all know it. The commercial loads tend to be higher during 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. when the offices and commercial complexes are running, and lean during the night hours. The industrial loads tend to run continuously at almost a steady value. The seasonal variation. Anyway, increase in temperature during the summer season increases the demand of cooling and air conditioning load. Very simple, straight thing. Residential load as well as office buildings, restaurants, retail stores, and other commercial facilities depend heavily on summer cooling loads, and thus peak demand met increases much during the summers. We have discussed it previously also. In contrast to domestic and commercial profiles, the industrial load profile does not vary as much as through the year. Conditioning is a smaller percentage of the industry facilities overall energy use. I told you earlier, the same kind of thing appearing in this slide. The economic factor. Since electricity has become a daily life necessity, it has also turned to be a commodity. Now, before I embark on this concept, I would like to say you that many of you must be aware about the stock exchanges. In the same way, the functioning of happening in our country. In a stock exchanges, the speculators or the operators, they exchange different type of stocks, means different type of shares, different type of securities. These are being exchanged from one hand to another hand. So this is the functioning of the stock. If some company performs very well on its annual returns, the price of that stock or that company share better results. So the stock prices are increasing. And in the same way, if the company does not perform well, if its profits are going down, or if there is something which is not very favorable for the company in coming days, its stock prices are going to suffer. The same kind of thing is happening in energy sector also. Energy has become a kind of commodity in previous years or in previous decades, say before 1990s. The energy was totally, or the power sector was almost totally controlled, monitored by the government side, and it was not considered as a commodity. It was a kind of thing strictly in government control, and we had got a very strict distribution and utilization kind of role. All types of licensing and permits were required to set up industries. So, and many reforms in power sector also. So energy has assumed a kind of commodity structure. And when it has become an economic commodity, it can be traded like that. You know, we can trade a commodity. If we have got, or if we are a supplier of pulses or cereals, we can trade it. We can decide its price depending upon the supply. If on a particular agricultural season, we have got enough supply of pulses, for example, then the rate of pulses, say, may it come from 100 rupees per kg to 80 rupees or even lower, depending upon the supply. In the same way, if we have got a very good monsoon season, all the hydro dams are full to their capacity. We have got a very good supply of coal, so that thermal power plants are operating at a good plant load factor. So everything is good on power side. Then the generation peak. So we have got enough commodity of electricity, and if we have got more and more on the supply side, then the price of that commodity is also affected. So this is the meaning of the economic factor, which is very important in the energy exchanges. Thus, economy of the state has also an impact on the uses of electricity. The increase in purchase capacity of the population fuels the spurt in demand, like the states which are industrially advanced in our country, they can have better purchasing capacity. The cost of power is very high, but there is something on the supply side that they are going to provide you 24-hour services with least breakdown. So they are charging more for the household consumers also. Moreover, rapid industrialization and modernization has also added to the demand growth. There is no denying the fact. If the per capita electricity consumption is per capita income of population, there is a definite positive correlation, as more per capita income implies larger per capita electricity consumption. This is very simple. If we are not if we are not a section of income poverty people, then we are not supposed to be energy starved also. What we discussed in the first slide, I think first presentation, that income poverty and energy poverty, but income poverty does not guarantee an energy poverty in different regions. Like in metros and in rural areas, the energy poverty nature is different. In rural areas, the people who are economically sound, means they have good enough monetary backup to manage their household standards, their household activities, even they have been found to be energy starved. They are using the same kind of cooking mediums, the same kind of lighting. They are not below the poverty line. They are not covered under income poverty, but still they are energy deficient. So it is the kind of lifestyle systems that they happen to use in these regions, in these areas. So we can say that the households which have got good per capita income, their per capita energy consumption is also on a higher side. So I think we should stop here now, though we could not complete the discussion that I wanted for future energy demand. So we can discuss the same in our, and by that time, I think you should go through with your existing books. So I would like to refer, if start electric power generation with you, so you can refer it. Many things have been dealt in B.R. Gupta, and you can very well understand. At the same time, you can refer to different websites or some other sources available on the net also.